Number one offense in basketball, and that's with Luka missing time repeatedly with an ankle injury, and Kristaps only really playing well for the last month plus. Like, Kristaps has since January 31st, he's 28 and 11 on 50 and 40s. Like, he's been sensational. And this is why seeding in the regular season might actually matter, even though it's not popular to say. The 2 seed right now would face these guys. You want to face the number one offense in basketball? Second-team All-NBA guy in Luka, a guy who one day I think will be an All-NBA player in Kristaps in the first round of the playoffs. Rick Carlisle coaching, I don't. And we're no longer in a big 3 era, Ryan Hollins, right? Like, that era is done, at least for now. I do wonder where Luka and Kristaps, how high up the duo ladder they can climb. I think it's impossible for them this year to crack the top 4. We know who the top 4 are, and I know you and I would probably disagree about the order of the top 4, but that's your top 4 duos. Even if you disagree on the order, Anthony Davis, LeBron, Giannis and Middleton, Harden and Russ, Kawhi and Paul George. Those are your 4 best duos.
Are we talking in season or are we talking postseason? Are we talking about, like, what have you done for me lately?
I'm talking about right now. Those are your best 4 duos in basketball. And KD and Kyrie will probably slide into that 5 spot next year, but they ain't there. So who's the 5th best duo in basketball? Going into the year, I'd have said Embiid and Simmons, hands down. But not now. Tatum and Kimba have gotten their name on the list, but they're not the best. Is it Luka and Kristaps? I think Luka's the best player on that right side of the screen. He's the best number one.
What do they need to do to move over a column?
Keep doing what they did last night. Keep doing what they did last night. You play like that, you're unquestionably one of the 5 best duos in basketball when you have Luka filling it up like that, Kristaps doing it on both ends.
Yeah, no, I can't argue that for the regular season. Obviously, I would take Kawhi and PG because their versatility in the postseason. But I said since LeBron got AD, that was the best fit because Anthony Davis by nature is a finisher. And LeBron, what does he do? We know he loves the pass. So that was going to be a match made in heaven, essentially. But as far as Luka and Kristaps, I don't have questions with them come playoff time. It's their defense. They don't have enough. They're not stacked with enough 3-and-D guys. They didn't get in the running for one of the Morris twins. Yep. They don't have an Avery Bradley on staff. They don't have your Patrick Beverleys of the world. So when you get in a matchup series, anybody, hear me, outside of the Lakers or Clippers, they have a shot at because there's no one to guard LeBron James. There's no one to guard Kawhi, Paul George, and company. So outside of that, that's a headache. And I played for Rick Carlisle. I've been in playoff situations with Rick. The one thing that Rick is going to do, he's almost like a European-esque coach he turned it into. He will expose your weaknesses. We played him in one game, and Chris Paul was cooking. And I swear to God, before it was really popular, he goes a box and one on Chris Paul, and he left Matt Barnes, my guy Matt, wide, absolutely open. And it was so absurd, we had not seen that defense. We ended up losing. We were up by 10 or so, ended up losing in the 4th quarter. But Rick Carlisle will throw
because you guys couldn't figure it out, or you just weren't expecting it?
You don't see it in the NBA. You do not. And Chris Paul was face guarded at half court. And Jamal, he might have went triangle into and face guarded Jamal Crawford in the same game, or Blake Griffin, and said, "You're not going to beat us." But Rick Carlisle will throw one of those defenses at you in a playoff series that could catch a team off balance. I mean,
you win an away game? So you're saying if they get a matchup, right now they'd face the Clippers, but they very well could face the Rockets. You're saying they get a matchup against the Rockets, they will just basically say, James Harden, we're going to do everything we can to take you out of the game and see what the hell else happens.
Absolutely. And even though there's not a soul to guard James or Russ, I don't know if the rest of the guys will go out and beat you. That will be a headache.
Well, and I'm focused on whether or not they'd play the Clippers in round 1. If they were to play the Rockets in round 1, a tough thing for them is the Mavs can play a small style with a 7'3" guy on the court. They can play small while having a monster on the court because Kristaps don't want to play traditional center anyway. But if your tallest guy is Robert Covington, even if Kristaps doesn't want to post up a bunch, if you got what would that be? An 8-inch height differential, they could cause some problems. Now, their defense is not good. We're talking about how they can defend. Their defense is not good, but their offense is so overwhelming. I do think they can take in the first round, they could go to 6 games. And once you get to 6 games,
anything happens.
You're a dangerous team. I think and Luka's playing out of it. If Luka's healthy, he's as scary as almost anybody in the league offensively. Defensively, there's a lot of work to do. Offensively,
there's a lot of liabilities.
Yeah.
Rick probably goes matchup zone. Who knows?
Listen, I watched Zion in the ACC tournament. What was that, 10 months ago? 11 months ago? Played 3 games in 3 days, and in the 3rd game played all 40 minutes. In back-to-back-to-back games, I think he gave you like 27 a night, 36 minutes a night, and won tournament MVP, and Duke won the tournament. Ryan, what's the AAU basketball season? What's the most games you played in a weekend?
Man, I would say in a day, you played 3 or 4 games in a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if
saying this is a good thing now?
What do you mean saying
so
it's
like
good?
all this AAU wear and tear?
Whether it's good or bad, what
Is
I'm
it
saying
possible?
is
Yeah.
it prepares you to play 2 games
or
in
if
2
nothing
days.
else,
though,
he's
really?
not that removed from that way of life.
If you play the right style of basketball, yeah. But I know from playing the AU tournaments, it starts to get sloppy and kids pick up really, really poor habits. And if there's an injury that's not properly treated, it can be a headache.
Sure.
But can a 19-year-old play? To answer the question, yeah, it almost proves it through AAU. He's done it before. I'll say there is an adjustment. I remember going and you know, when I first started really getting minutes in the league, first time you play in one game, then you sit the next, okay, no big deal. But now you're a starter and you play a long overtime game and you come back in a back-to-back and you play long minutes, it takes a different type of wear and tear on your body. Do I agree with Coach Gentry at being 19 years old? Yeah, this absolutely shouldn't be an issue. But for a guy like Zion, he's kind of still getting his feet wet in these situations, but you have to put him out there to see what you have and then let the training staff go from there.
I asked our production staff for a stat.
Okay. What's the stat?
Stack and McNick.
I said, put a helmet on because Nick Wright is going to explode when he sees this stat.
Okay.
Pepper, can you put the stat up? 17 games, won back-to-back. 117 games, won back-to-back. Nick,
of course.
Your thoughts?
Of course. This is why.
I told you. Look at it. I told you. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
I'm so frustrated with Kawhi because he has changed not only the narrative on do NBA players want to play, are the fans being done a disservice, but because he's changed the narrative of how we analyze all athletes in the league. Zion's 19 years old. And it's like, can he play a back-to-back? Of course he can play a back-to-back. Everyone in the league forever plays back-to-backs. This idea of, you know when Tim Duncan started resting on the last night of a back-to-back? Year 16. The idea, now credit to Adam Silver, they've extended the season, start a little earlier, go a little later. There's less 3 games in 4 nights even than when you were playing. They have tried to lighten the load in that regard. But this idea, and this is another thing that happens, if you ever talk about a team that lost a game, you're talking about the fans on Twitter will be like, well, it was the second night of a back-to-back. Guys, it happens. Like, there are back-to-backs that people play, and it's part of your job in the NBA. And the fact that Kawhi refuses to do it does not mean it should infect the rest of the league to where a 19-year-old superstar team fighting for the playoffs can't play a second night of a back-to-back.
I love it.
You were right.
Oh, yeah. No.
That was excellent.
Yeah. Kawhi's an intriguing situation because no one can relate to him and his knee problems and the fact that he's sat out an entire year. We don't put any other. We haven't seen LeBron sit out a whole year. Kevin Durant, obviously, with his foot. And we don't see injuries from our stars as commonly as that. The big issue with Kawhi Leonard in sitting out in the low management, you question, does he care? Did he even try to play and show up on a back-to-back? That's what the fans, and Nick, I would argue that you also have a problem with that.
I don't question does he care.
Janet, we're gonna...
Hold on. I don't question does he care. I question what are you willing to push through, and if the entire goal is, but it's all about winning a championship, are you actually undercutting your ability to win said championship by not playing more in the regular season?
We'll see.
And with Zion, I understand the idea is we got to think 5,000 yards out because we're thinking about year 8 for Zion. The best thing for Zion Williamson, since he is only 18 months removed from playing against high schoolers, is to get as many reps as possible when he's tired on a back-to-back to see what he can do and what he needs to work on. You do not get better at things by not doing them.
But in terms of Zion, if there's something that's lingering injury-wise, and I'm not saying there is, don't quote that, a 19-year-old kid is not going to save himself from himself. You know what I'm saying? If he's hurt, he's going to go out and play. That's just the player's mentality.
That's the training staff's job, though.
Yeah,
if he's not hurt, he plays.
But, Nick, let's not get caught in the old-school narratives there where you just go and beat your body into submission until you don't have anything left.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.